Anthology on the bad, short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in TV history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
Episode 545, submission number 829, Amanda's. Amanda's, or Amanda's by the Sea, aired on ABC from February 10th to May 28th, 1983, for 13 episodes.
Hey guys, you know what also premiered the same day on February 10th? Condo.
Was it I was gonna say, was it Condo? Yeah.
Because that was part of ABC's big promotion for the Winds of War coming later this month. Condo and Amanda's. But they heavily pushed Condo hard during the Winds of War.
Maybe ABC should have gone with the Winds of Whoopi instead for that hour. Hey, then there's a possibility we'd actually have a full hour of Winds of Whoopi instead of like spitballing about what happened on it.
Who here is a fan of Fawlty Towers?
I can't say I've ever seen it.
John Cleese and Connie Booth, they made magic together. Fawlty Towers is a classic of British comedy.
It sounds like you're blaming me, but I think it's more that the PBS affiliates in this area never aired it.
I know they did here on WLIW and WNET.
So in my defense as to never having seen Fawlty Towers, the one show I remember both the Akron and the Cleveland PBS affiliates airing instead of Fawlty Towers was Are You Being Served? That's my justification as to why I never saw this show.
They would have a block of like Fawlty Towers and Keeping Up Appearances in the afternoon on BBC America back in the day, so there were chances that you could have seen it.
Given I didn't get BBC America until probably about 2003 or 2004-ish, I don't remember any comedies on BBC America back then. I mean, maybe more contemporary comedies, not comedies from the 70s.
Fawlty Towers, it was basically the Peter Principle gone absolutely awry. John Cleese playing Basil Fawlty, and he and his wife opening a bed and breakfast where anything that can go wrong will. Elliot Schoenman, who we last talked about when we talked about Oh Madeline, took one look at this and said, you know what we could do? We could do this show, but instead of Britain, we set it in California by the beach. And so was born Amanda's by the Sea, which, according to the first episode, is not even by the sea.
Why is it not by the sea?
No clue. This is actually the second time somebody tried to translate Fawlty Towers to Americanese. First time was Snavely, featuring Harvey Korman and Betty White. The third time was Pain, featuring John Larroquette.
Oh my god, I forgot about Pain. What an ironic title for our show.
All three of them did not hit as well as Fawlty Towers did.
Yeah, because there's like a magic to Fawlty Towers. You don't have John Cleese there, so you don't have like the Monty Python specialness of the show.
They went back to the drawing board with Bea Arthur looking at tapes of Fawlty Towers in the late 70s, early 80s. She was a really big fan of the original, so she agreed to take part in a remake. But how do you make a remake of Fawlty Towers by combining Basil and Sybil Fawlty into the same character? Bea Arthur plays Amanda Cartwright, the constantly put upon owner of Amanda's by the Sea, which is a California seaside bed and breakfast, which is or is not actually by the sea, depending on what episode is airing. Her staff included hotel management graduate son Marty, his wife, her spoiled daughter-in-law Arlene, the bumbling chef Earl, and the bellhop of foreign extraction Aldo. Frequent guests include the banker, Mr. Mundy, who, let's be honest, is only there for one reason: the rent.
What did you say?
The rent.
I want to see Rent.
I really want Greg to say, I want to see Dogman again.
Well, good, you're gonna get it. I want to see Dog Man.
And her brother-in-law, Zach, who was out to woo Amanda, which isn't weird because they're not blood relations. Going over the cast, we already went over Bea Arthur in the lead role as Amanda Cartwright. Playing her son Marty, Fred McCarran, known for roles in The Goodbye Girl and Shell Game. His wife Arlene is played by Simone Griffith. I've actually seen her before in 1975's Death Race 2000. And when I say I've seen her...
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Oh, Chico.
I'm not wrong, you know.
You're also not right, you know.
Playing the bumbling chef Earl. God, Greg. Jeez.
Did you see what I was doing?
I saw what you were doing, Greg.
Hey, I did that to your mother.
Bumbling chef Earl was played by Rick Hurst, who you
Wait,
remember.
you did. Oh no. You
Yes,
did see
yes,
Owen Griffith. That's right, because that was the woman you're jacking off to in Death Race 2000. Yeah, I forgot that. Okay, go to Earl Nash.
Bumbling chef Earl Nash is played by Rick Hurst, best known as Cletus Hogg on The Dukes of Hazzard. And then playing Aldo, Tony Rosado from SCTV in Canada, Saturday Night Live in the US, and on Saturday mornings he was the voice of Luigi on The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3.
It's great to know that he filled the shoes of Danny Wells, who, unlike as I thought in Carter Country, was not in the elevator shaft on LA Law, unlike Diana.
And this is what, the second time you're bringing that up in 3 weeks? I know you didn't mention it last week when I was gone, or I hope you didn't. But
No,
you brought that up when we talked about Danny Wells on When Things Were Rotten Revisited.
yeah.
So, second time you've made that anecdote in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And of course, Mike, I know you don't want to think of Danny Wells going down an elevator shaft.
No, actually I do, because every time I think of him falling down the elevator shaft, I hear this sound effect.
You know what? That could have happened on LA Law, and they could have just put the fucking Mario Brothers step sound effects.
I can just see Diana Mulder now. Go, ding! Ah! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I really don't want to talk about it.
Tony Rosado, of course, was on that 81-82 season of Saturday Night Live with Christine Ebersol, who, of course, was in Back in Me. And Mike, this is going to be the cue here. You're going to have to play the soundbite of the kid going down the freaking wheelchair, because we all know Paul Rudd loves that shit.
Was the kid in the wheelchair by chance dressed as Mario so I could play the damn sound effect again?
Sure. Wish he was. Would have made it funnier.
Eric! Like...
Was Aaron this off the wall last week? I'm just asking.
It was very normal, Mike. You were missed. We
No,
love
it
Aaron.
wasn't. It was
We
normal.
love Aaron, but you were missed.
Bullshit.
As for the two recurring characters, Clifford Mundy, the baker, was played by, speaking of Carter Country, Keen Curtis.
Thought you were going to say King Curtis Ikea.
I thought he was going to say Keenan Wynn. I don't know where my mind was. And now I present to you Carter Country. Sorry, Aaron. I'm totally gone off the rails. I've ruined your legacy.
Oh, wait, he wasn't in Carter Country. He was in 1 in a Million.
Oh, darn. I thought you said Keenan Wynn. And it's like, I can see Keenan Wynn on 1 in a Million. And now I present to you 1 in a Million. Ooh.
I thought Chico was saying King Curtis Ikea.
We both need help, Greg.
And playing Zach Cartwright, the brother-in-law that has a thing for Amanda. Another person we talked about on this program, Kevin McCarthy.
R.J. Fletcher from UHF.
Oh, we've talked about him a lot.
With talent like this, what could possibly go wrong? Then I remember this is Fawlty Towers, kind of, sort of. If it can go wrong, it will. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about some episodes. The first episode, All in a Day's Work. Amanda is nagged by an unscrupulous businessman to sell her hotel to him while she deals with a snooty guest, a demanding judge, and a hotel critic making a surprise visit.
Well, I know this is not the judge, so we can narrow this down to one of two guests. But playing Krinsky in this episode is Michael Constantine. He was Sirota in Sirota's court.
He wasn't the judge and he wasn't the critic, so he was the snooty guest. Playing David in this episode, David Hedison. Bond legend. Only one of two actors to play Felix Leiter in 2 films.
The other being Jeffrey Wright. But I have mentioned in the past, I do have that signed Upper Deck 007 James Bond card of his.
I think that's going to be a regular thing. Anytime any of these people have been on trading cards, we're going to mention it because, seriously, we've got to talk about at least hopefully one person that appeared in the Cheers series. Oh, and if you didn't hear me talk about the Cheers series, go to either the video break that I did on Tuesday or go to the Before the Show because the Cheers set gets plenty of talk in both of those episodes.
Now, hold on a second. I'm trying to think. Was he the reason why we said Fat Man 66? Or was that another guy? I don't even remember. I know it was in Double Trouble episode we first mentioned Fat Man 66. We don't remember. Go listen to that episode.
Episode 2. You Were Meant for Me. When an ex-con holds the staff and guests hostage in the hotel lobby, both he and the chief of police make a play for Amanda. Ex-con, a man by the name of Mr. Johnson, played by Donnelly Rhodes, who was also in Double Trouble.
Well, I thought what you were going to say is he also played an ex-con on Soap. He did play an ex-con who fell in love with who was it? Greg? Was it?
It was the one Tate daughter who wasn't Corinne.
Yeah, the one Tate daughter that wasn't Corinne. Yeah, darn it, I can't think of her name. I'm sure I'll get it in a second. But he played Dutch on Soap, and the one Tate daughter who wasn't Corinne. Oh, Eunice. Eunice Tate?
Yeah, that's not quite as a memorable name as Corinne Tate.
Well, also Corinne Tate. She married Tim Flotsky. She married Sal Viscuso, and they became like recluses, and he went to a cave and whatnot.
And they spawned a demon child, a literal demon child.
And they spawned a demon child, and Greg is not kidding there, yes.
Second name, guy by the name of Mr. Porterhouse, presumably a guest of the hotel, played by Leonard Stone, a.k.a. Sam Beauregard from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. What's the big name? Playing Sal, the chief of police. Comedy icon. Jerry Stiller.
Oh, that is fantastic. And especially timely, since his son Ben has just produced the second season of Severance on Apple TV Plus.
I will say after 2 episodes, they're getting some big name guest stars.
See what episode 3 has to offer. This is The Man Who Came on Wednesday. Amanda's party plans are interrupted when she has to pass off a bunch of country bumpkins as pillars of the community to welcome the town's new bank president.
They nailed one of the bumpkins for sure, I can tell you that, based on who played Billy Ray in this episode. Dennis Berkeley, who we've talked about previously, he was on Sanford. He was the heavyset white guy that was friends with Fred Sanford. Well, but the thing is, seriously, he was a very heavyset guy, and that's the way I remember him. Is he was like the neighbor or the friend or partner of Fred Sanford on Sanford back in 1980 or 81. But also the place I remember him besides that, going back to Bea Arthur, he was the congressional aide for Bea Arthur, for Maude, when she won her election to go to Congress in the series finale to Maude. He played her aide. So he's got a little bit of a connection with Bea Arthur there.
Another connection here, not to Bea Arthur, but to Kevin McCarthy, who would be in later episodes, Stanley Brock, who plays Uncle Harvey on UHF.
Oh, that's fantastic, Stanley Brock. And let's not forget, we have talked about him in the past because he had a cameo in What's Alan Watching?
And if you want some real sort of mind-blowing trivia here, doesn't have a character name, but he is in this episode. Danny Wells.
You mean the Danny Wells that fell down the elevator shaft on LA Law?
No.
We already did that joke, Mike.
I don't care. I'm going back to the well again. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Danny Wells going back to the well. I don't care. I'm milking that joke for all it's worth because seriously, how many times are we going to make that joke in the course of this podcast? 3 times in 3 weeks. And before then, we did it once. And after now, maybe we'll do it like once or twice in the next 20 years. And if I'm doing this when I'm 70 years old, put me out of my misery.
Episode 4. I Ain't Got Nobody. Amanda panics when she and Aldo desperately try to keep up with a corpse that mysteriously turns up in various guests' rooms.
Great, now it's Weekend at Bernie's. Where's Terry Kaiser when you need him? And no, Terry Kaiser's not in this episode, but it would have been hilarious if he was.
You want to know who was in this episode? Playing Vicky, Brianne Leary.
She was on Chips.
and Black Sheep Squadron. And she hosted on Animal Planet for ages. I remember this rerunning for probably the better part of like 10 years or so. She hosted a series called Pittsburgh, USA. Basically just about pets. Nothing really fancy about it, but also not in the same vein as the pet set. Another name in this episode, playing Mr. Ahern, is Ralph Manza. He's one of those people, when you see his face, you know you've seen him. The place I really remember him from is he was on numerous episodes of Get Smart, the OG Get Smart. And I seem to remember him in that absolutely horrific final season. And actually, taking a look at IMDb, he was in 3 episodes from that final season, both parts of the episode where Agent 99 gives birth to Agent 86's baby, and also one where basically, I think this was Christopher Columbus coming back to like reclaim America or something. Something that probably wouldn't fly in 2025, but may have been acceptable in 1970. Gino is Christopher Columbus's direct descendant and legally owns the Americas. Max has to keep him out of Chaos's hands until he hands over land rights to the president. Yeah, that episode's canceled in 2025.
We have a character by the name of Whitey, played by Todd Sussman, who is in multiple episodes of MASH, among other things. He was in 20 of Newhart, 6 of Scorch. We talked about him on Scorch.
Wait, he did all 6 episodes of Scorch?
He did all 6 episodes of Scorch.
Oh, Greg, he would have been in the movie then. If it lasted 6 seasons in a movie. I'm sorry, I think Greg fainted. I think I gotta pick him up. While I revive Greg, you go to episode 5.
Episode 5. My Cheatin' Staff. Aldo falls for a gorgeous airline stewardess, while Marty and Arlene suspect Amanda of having an affair with Aldo and a married hotel guest. Phoebe, a lady who is central to the plot of this episode, is played by Ann Gillespie, who is in 147 episodes of Ryan's Hope, 55 episodes of Beverly Hills 90210, and an extra 6 of its companion series, 90210. Jackie Taylor was her character, if I'm not mistaken, Jenny Garth's mom.
Oh.
Episode 6. Aunt Sonia. The hotel may not survive a visit from Amanda's aunt, a golf tournament, a shortage of rooms, and the appearance of a dancing chicken in the cabaret. Mr. Gordon, played by somebody we talked about previously, Robert Alda.
The doctor on the super trade. Mike, isn't that terrific? Robert Alda was on this show.
I like that all of us were going to jump in at the same time and say, hey, he was on Super Train. I think that shows how much of a similar mind we all have.
A name I definitely remember, playing Mrs. Wilson on this episode, Virginia Capers. She played Hattie Banks, a.k.a. Uncle Phil's mama, on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yet another name on this episode, playing Basil O'Hara, is Arthur Millette. We definitely talked about him because he was on 22 episodes of Easy Street.
Moving on to episode 7. Amanda's number 1 son. Amanda is in dire straits after Marty is lured away from working at the hotel and receives a job offer from his father-in-law to work in Boston. This was one of 3 unaired episodes, so I'm guessing it aired overseas in between episodes 6 and 8. Playing Phil in this episode, Mr. Powell himself, James T. Callahan.
He's no Jamie Widows, I'll say that much.
They are referring to Charles in Charge, in case you didn't know.
Episode 8, I Was Wild About Harry. This is another unaired episode. Amanda tries to organize a luau in honor of her late husband, but the weather insists on being anything but Hawaiian. Playing Fred Cornwall, Earl Bowen. It's a living amongst other things, because I know we've talked about him a ton. Episode 9, Last of the Red Hot Brothers. Amanda's emotions range from elation to fury with a surprise visit from her brother-in-law, Zach, during a financial crisis at the hotel. Playing Barbara Marin in this episode, Randy Heller, Matthew Perry's mom from Second Chance / Boys Will Be Boys.
And also she was on Super Trade.
And playing Philip Oliver in this episode, straight from the Sanford Arms, Teddy Wilson.
Sanford Arms, Jesus Christ.
Hey, we got a reference to Sanford Arms and Sanford in this episode. Yet we really haven't said anything about Sanford and Son. Think about that for a second. I'm wondering if we're going to get a Grady reference. Let's go for all the spin-offs that sucked of Sanford and Son and not talk about Sanford and Son at all. Come on, Whitman Mayo!
Episode 10, I'm dancing as close as I can. Amanda's temper flares when Zach begins meddling in the hotel's affairs, then she breaks out with a case of the hives when he asks her out on a date.
Why?
Episode 11, the first of a two-parter, One Passionate Night. A full moon has the hotel staff feeling quite passionate, which results in some strange bedfellows, especially for Amanda and Zach. That leads us into One Passionate Night, The Aftermath, Part 2. Marty takes Amanda to task when it becomes clear to him that she and his uncle Zach have become romantically involved. Playing Estelle in this episode, Anne Haney. We talked about her not too long ago on Lime Street.
And she's been on quite a few other entries. She was on both Half Nelson and Easy Street, among other shows. She was on Aftermath for 4 episodes. She was on Condo. Hey, that's 5 series right there. Not saying Hall of Fame, but oh, look at that. Harper Valley PTA, she was on an episode, so that's 6. I think it'd just be hilarious if I just keep on going through her IMDb and just add more shows to her resume, since we're already at 6. Don't challenge me, people. I will do this. She was also on Golden Palace, so that's 7 episodes. I said don't challenge me.
And also, without Bea Arthur, I should know. This spin-off of Golden Girls that did not have Bea Arthur. I just want to clarify.
And that leads us to the final episode, also the last of the unaired episodes. Oh, Promise Me. Wedding bells are ringing for Amanda and Zach, but first they must banish the ghost of Amanda's first husband, Barney. Playing the ghost of Amanda Cartwright's late husband, Barney, Billy Sands. We talked about him in Delta House and the Bad News Bears. He is also the club fight announcer in Rocky.
And we've talked about him some other places because he was Tinkerbell on McHale's Navy back in the 60s. But also we talked about him because he played a tailor in one episode of CPO Sharky.
Other guests of note in this episode include, as Sister Nicoletta, Bonnie Urseth from We've Got It Made.
And
as Sister Mary Elizabeth, Susan Rattan from LA Law.
no, going back to Bonnie Urseth, where else do we know her from?
At 1 week of Match Game Hollywood Squares.
Thank you, Greg. Well, not just 1 week. She was on multiple weeks. But that was the answer I was hoping for, even though I was really anticipating Chico saying she was played that nun on the Punky Brewster episode where they went to the NLCS. Oh, and Susan Rattan from a little show called LA Law, where Danny Wells didn't fall down the elevator shaft. Yes, that's the third reference this week.
That is the show, and I have to ask, what happened? I know Mike has the ratings, but hindsight being 2020, John Cleese was interviewed about Amanda's because, Amanda's is the second time they're doing Fawlty Towers, and he had this to say. The most extraordinary remake was with Bea Arthur. I remember at a party I met these chaps from Viacom who said they were working on a new Fawlty Towers. My ears pricked up at the sound of cash registers and said, "That's wonderful. Are you going to change anything?" They said, "Well, we have changed one thing. We've written Basil out." And that's absolutely true. They took Basil and Sybil's lines and gave them all to Bea Arthur. Bea Arthur could deliver those lines. If you see the episodes, of which there are plenty, I believe all 13 of them are available on YouTube, but you see those episodes, you can see the impeccable timing that she has with everyone in her cast. Norman Lear even went so far as saying, "You don't have a character, you're not playing anything." And that is true to an extent. Bea Arthur's just playing off of everyone.
I think we do need to go a little bit deeper into the schedule, as well as the ratings, as you mentioned. Amanda's originally aired at 8:30 on Thursdays, right after Condo. This is not good, to say the least. Not just the competition, but also you're following Condo, which is a woof of a show. Pick your poison here. I think NBC you beat because this is a good show, but the ratings weren't so good. You're going up against the second half hour of Fame. On CBS, though, you're not going to beat the second half hour of Magnum PI. And then Amanda's, it moved in May of 1983, which I'm going to assume is reruns because Chico mentioned a lot of shows did not air on this side of the Atlantic. It stayed on Thursdays, but it moved to 9:30 p.m. now. Condo's gone. It's now following Too Close for Comfort. For better or for worse. I mean, Too Close for Comfort aired for 4 or 5 years on ABC, so maybe you get a little boost from that. But looking at the competition, again, no bueno on CBS, and maybe again you're beating this in 1983. On CBS, you're going up against the second half hour of Simon and Simon, but at 9:30 on NBC, some little show called Cheers. Oh, by the way, did you know that Rittenhouse just released a series of cards based on Cheers? Don't know if you heard that, but I do have numbers in terms of ratings. The first week out of 61 shows, Amanda's came in at 11th. Pretty good start. Since this show only aired for 13 episodes and didn't even get through 13 episodes, you gotta assume the numbers hereafter were not that good. And actually, I do have the numbers for what I do believe is the third episode. Out of 67 shows, Amanda's came in at 53rd. So you go from 11th to 53rd in the span of 2 weeks. Not good. I believe this is for week 5 or for the 5th episode from the second week of March of 1983. Out of 72 shows, 60th. Not good. Gets a little bit better. This is 2 weeks later, so I'm guessing this is like episode 7 or so. Out of 67 shows, 42nd. And then I have ratings for the entire season up to this point. And this is from April 21st of 1983. Out of 99 shows, Amanda's came in right near the middle, 54th. But still, you started off at 11th and then right down the drain by week 3. You're not going to be renewed with that type of plummet.
Don't cry for Bea Arthur, because 2 years from the cancellation of this show, she would move on to another show with another person who was on another adaptation of Fawlty Towers. I, of course, am talking about Betty White playing opposite Harvey Korman in the first adaptation of Fawlty Towers that did not do well, called Snavely.
What kind of a stupid ass name is that?
Not even joking, Greg. I think there is a Snavely Street in my hometown. Snavely Road, yes. So what type of name is Snavely? It's the name of a road where I grew up. I didn't live on Snavely, but it was in my hometown. So kiss my ass, Snavely is something that exists in some capacity. I don't know what the hell a Snavely is.
Isn't that the name of Oscar the Grouch's worm?
That's Slimy Dog.
Slimy, yeah, not Snavely. What the hell? Chico, save us.
You take a talent like Bea Arthur, surround her with a talented cast, add some guts from a British comedy classic, and what started out as a good idea on paper turned out to be just a thing on TV.
Snavely.
You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
Lost in Translation Week continues. Last year, we did a Japanese game show that lasted 2 episodes as an American game show.
What was that?
That was Iron Chef USA.
Oh, that's right.
You don't remember that because Iron Chef America was scores better. I believe Bill Hader worked on Iron Chef America.
The first one or the second one?
The second one.
Oh, yeah, of course, because that was probably back when he was like a PA.
He played the role of Keith Morrison on that Iron Chef.
Well, that's what he was doing when he was doing the judging. Oh!
Exactly.
This year, I found another successful Japanese game show that America tried to bring over that also lasted 2 episodes. And would you believe Laugh-In is involved?
What?
This will all make sense when we talk about it on Thursday, right here on It Was a Thing on TV. For Greg, for Mike, I'm Chico. Thank you ever so much for listening. Please be kind to one another, and we will see you for the next one.
Row!
Thursday, wedding bells and pregnant yells.
They can't have a baby without me.
Why? Do you have to say grace? Condo. Then Amanda gets her dates crossed.
I think we have a bad connection.
And a bank president's party turns into a brawl. Then, Muriel's birthday brings the surprise of her life.
You were adopted.
And it's too close for comfort. Then Sam thinks he's dying, but Molly thinks he's lying.
You're leaving me for another woman?
It takes 2. Tonight.